Daddy's predictions are always right. The last time I made a standard prediction was during Thornvale Dragon Spoilers, when I bravely predicted that the best deck in standard would be Sultai Oko tokens. People said I was crazy, but Daddy couldn't have been more right, and now Daddy is here once again, this time to predict the next big standard deck from Ikoria. The first thing we must talk about is the new companion ability. Basically, you put one companion card in your sideboard, and as long as your deck obeys the companion's ability, you can cast a card from your sideboard whenever. In other words, it's like having an 8th card in your opening hand. For the new card Kahira the Orphan Guard, its companion condition is that each creature card in our deck is a cat, elemental, nightmare, dinosaur, or beast, and its ability gives all of our creatures +1/+1 and vigilance. A lot of people seem to think that this card is bad, but you have to keep in mind that this is basically a free card in your hand, and in a format where most cards trade 1 for 1, an extra free card is huge, just like Joe Mama's titties. And speaking of titties, Kahira works really well with Nissa, because Nissa turns our lands into 3/3 elementals, which then get buffed by Kahira into 4/4 elementals. With so many Nissa decks in the standard metagame, making 4/4 creatures is a major advantage over your opponent when the creatures they make are only 3/3s. And speaking of elementals, we are predominantly an elemental deck. We got them Risen Reefs to dig for lands, we got Leafkin Druid for ramp, and we also have Cavalier of Thorns. When it enters, we dig for a land, and it puts 4 cards in a graveyard. When it dies, we put a card from graveyard on top of our library. And Cavalier is especially good when we give it Vigilance with Kahira. And the card that makes all these elementals worth it is Omnath. And when it enters, it deals damage to any target equal to the number of elementals we control. And with its second ability, when a land enters, we buff one of our elementals, and if we control 8 lands, we also draw a card. Omnath works really well with Fabled Passage, and it also works extremely well with the new Ikoria land, Ketria Triome. It comes into play tap, but it makes every color that we need. On top of that, it's also a forest, which means with Nissa, it'll make 2 mana instead of 1. And that's a pretty big upside. But here's where things get cray-cray. Kahira works with Nightmares, which means we can run the card that everyone's crazy about, Fiend Artisan. Its first ability says it gets +1/+1 for each creature card in our graveyard. That can be very good, especially when we can mill cards with Cavalier, as well as Tasty Tammy, which also mills 4. As for Fiend Artisan's second ability, we pay 1+X, dig for a creature with converted mana cost X, and put it onto the battlefield, which means for 5 mana we can dig for an Omnath. Doing this, we also have to sacrifice a creature, but that is not too difficult because we are running 4 Arboreal Grazer, which also allows us a turn to Kahira. And because of Fiend Artisan's second ability, I also put 1 Illuna in the deck. For 5 mana is a 6/6 with Flying and Trample, and if we instead pay 6 and target a creature, we reveal cards from the top of our library until we hit a non-land permanent and put it into play. But mainly I put 1 in for Fiend Artisan. And as for the last card in our deck, because Kahira allows Beast, which is also why we're able to play the Grazer, we can play Hydrid Krasis, which is also a beast, and that is Daddy's masterpiece. But now we must test out in gameplay to see how good it actually is. But first, if you want to see more standard content, the best way to let me know is by subscribing, because whenever I ask if people want to see standard videos, the response always seems to be standard sucks. So if any of you big boys secretly like standard, I'd be happy to make more standard content. Without further ado, here's the gameplay, and I hope you enjoy. Opening hand is a bit slow, but we'll give it a shot. Opponent begins a Spitter. We draw another land. Meh. Okidoki. Opponent hits us for 2. Plays Light Up the Stage, revealing Champion and Runaway, and then it'd be back to us. Full Fiend Artisan. But I think the best play here, play the Reef, land off the top, cool, and now let's just try and survive. Opponent spanks us for 3, plays Runaway, and Light Up the Stage, revealing 2 lands. But now back on our turn, we could play Cavalier or the Omnath to kill the Runaway. That's a tough one, but I think for the sake of ramp, we'll play the Cavalier, hit a land with a Reef trigger, and with Cavalier we hit a Breeding Pool, and dump 2 Cavaliers and a Fiend into graveyard. But now we must pass back. Oh, opponent plays Torbrand, he very thick, but he won't be thick for long. Play another Reef, get 2 triggers, hit 2 Tasty Tammies, but now it is time for Omnath. It will deal 4 to Torbrand, but now it's time for many triggers. We have 2 Reef triggers. We hit an island off the first one. That triggers Omnath's second ability. We'll put a counter on Omnath, and because we have 8 lands, we also draw a card. Second Reef triggers, we get a Druid, and we have yet to play a land this turn. So Breeding Pool tap that triggers Omnath again, and we draw a Grazer. Wasn't that turn wonderful? Back to our opponent. Opponent plays another Spitter and passes back. We draw a Krasis for turn, and let's go ahead and play Tasty Tammy. We'll try and hit Nissa. We mill 4 creatures, but no Nissa. Play another land, trigger the Omnath. Draw another Cavalier, and we could play it this turn, but I see a kinkier option. Play Fiend Artisan. He is quite the big boy, and we'll make him even bigger. Play our companion, and our opponent concedes. I don't blame them. For a while, it seemed like our opponent might get that game, but once we got enough lands, it was just like, bam, big queef. But now it's on to the next one. Opening hand has some decent ramps, so we're gonna keep. Starting with Grazer, opponent scries a Temple and passes, and back on our turn, a bit unfortunate, not a land here. So we'll play Artisan and land and pass back. Opponent plays Triton, and then we'll get a Mountain. And back on our turn, we do draw another land. Very close to getting off Nissa, so I think we'll just go Reef this turn, hitting a land off the top. Play a Passage and it's back to our opponent. Opponent plays Reaper and passes, but now it'd be time for Nissa. Untap and animate a land, but now that we can double our mana, it's time to bring out our friend. Hooray! And with an extra green mana to spare, we'll play our other Grazer. Time to start swinging. The Triton trades with Reef, and now it's back to our opponent. Opponent plays Mayhem Devil, and a Witch's Oven. Interesting. They might be looking to double ping our Lord next turn. But then back on our turn, pull a Grazer, okay. Let's do this. Play it, then animate a land, and then with 5 mana, we'll tap, sack, grab Omnath, and since we have 3 elemental creatures, creatures will attempt to deal 3 damage to the devil. Opponent sacks in response to deal 1 damage to Nissa. But now, big boy swing. Opponent trades with Kahira. Back to them. Opponent plays a priest. And then steals our Fiend Artisan. Okay. Then they'd be sacking the priest, grabbing familiar, smart. And then they sack our Fiend Artisan. Okay. He was a good friend, but we shall avenge him. Play land. Put a counter on Omnath. Animate another land. And big swing. They'll block and barely survive here. They bring back familiar and it's back to our opponent. Opponent plays Triton. And then they concede. Hooray for us. Kind of a blowout that game. But now it's on to the next one. Opening hand is most good. We'll keep. Starting with Grazer. Opponent scries and passes. And back on our turn we pull land. Do we play Kahira this turn? Or set up for Nissa for next turn? Probably should set up for Nissa. So we'd be passing back. And meh, on us passing back. That's not good. If they have Mystical Dispute, that won't do anything. But if they have Dovin's Veto, that will counter the Nissa. And that's not good. But if we don't play Nissa this turn, and next turn they play land and pass back again, then they might have Absorb or Dispute. Tough decisions. I think the safer option would be to play the Lord, because they wouldn't be able to counter that. Yeah, let's go that route. Let's hit our opponent for 2. And thanks to Vigilance, we'll play another Druid. Uh-oh, stinky. Opponent plays Teferi and bounces Kahira to hand, sure. And starting next turn, we're gonna have to worry about board wipe. Well, we definitely have to play Nissa this turn, animating a land. And now the big question is, do we play Kahira? Kahira would allow Grazer to kill Teferi, and the Forest would have 4 power. So if they did shadow this guy next turn, we'd at least draw a card. So let's go for it. Swing like this. And now please no board wipe. Oh, they play land tap. And then they pass back. Interesting. Wait, do we have lethal this turn? 7, 8, 9, 10. Animate a land, that'd be 14. Oh, I think we got it. Swing for 14. And yeah, we win. So apparently our opponent was having some land trouble there. And had the castle come into play untapped, they would have been able to board wipe and then kill Nissa on the following turn. I think at that point they might have won. We would have had a 3/3 creature, we would have drawn what we would have drawn. I mean, it's hard to say, although they would get back to Fairy. If they were on the play of that game, they probably would have gotten it. But oh well. On to the next one. Opening hand. Grazer's been working pretty well lately, so we're gonna keep. Opponent scries and passes. And please pull land here. Hooray! That means we can play Kahira. Swing for 1. And pass back. Land tap from them. We're just eating their booty hole right now. Okay, might as well go Tasty Tammy. And name Cavalier of Thorns. Oh good, we find one. Swing for 4. And back to opponent. Meh. Opponent plays Uro. They go back to 18. But now it's time for Nissa. Animate a land. Swing for 8. Then up Tasty Tammy, naming either a second Nissa or Omnath. I guess Omnath. Dang, should've named Nissa. But to be honest, I don't think we need it. How adorable. Our opponent exiles Nissa. But it'll be lights out for them. We'll minus Tasty Tammy to return the milled Nissa to hand. Isn't this wonderful? And now big swing. And that will do it. I think the board says a lot. They only played 2 things this entire game when we played all this. We were on the play each game, and that's certainly one factor. However, Grazer turn 1 into turn 2 Kahira is really strong, and then a turn 3 Tasty Tammy, and to turn 4 Nissa, like how do you beat that? Board wipe would help, but I would not want to be on the receiving end of this deck. Ugh. Is this what the future of the metagame is? I don't know. Don't blame me. I'm just warning you guys of what's to come. I just didn't expect Grazer to be so good. Both Kahira is good offensively, it's good for ramp, it's a great blocker as well, and despite being a 3-color deck, we didn't have any land trouble. The Triumph certainly helped with that. It would have been nice to play out these matches to see what it's like on the draw, but I really want to get this video out as soon as possible. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more standard content, and here are today's winners of the free deck box giveaway. You could win one as well. All you gotta do is interact in the comment section below, but that wraps up this video. Stay safe, and as always, I hope you have a great day.